I'm not sure how many views I'm going to get on this video today, being a big holiday like Groundhog Day. Many of you are probably unaware of the events over the weekend. You've planned your trips, you're at your retreats, but we are now in the opening salvos of a tariff war, a North American economic war. Tariffs of 25% on Canada and Mexico, but only 10 on China. That is pretty much a statement from the US that we are no longer friends. It is a war. So I will spend some time on that. For those who would wish I rather not include anything political in with these commentaries, I don't see that we have a choice. There is no US government. There is only Trump. He is at this point equivalent to a dictator in the executive orders that he's issuing. There is some question whether or not this is legal. He is using a particular clause from IEPA to get it done, but it's a real stretch. And in the tariff statement, one little thing sort of gives something away, and we'll look at that. Meanwhile, let's not ignore the week that was. The tariffs, if these things are implemented, none of this matters, by the way. None of this, the GDP and where we are, what the Fed is doing, how earnings have come, none of it matters anymore, because the tariffs will overnight reshape industries and reshape the distribution of employment. Jobs will be lost on all three sides. In all three countries, all three sides of the border. In all countries, jobs will be lost. Economic growth will take a step down, which should lower aggregate demand, which would counter the inflationary. I shouldn't call them inflationary. Tariffs are not inflationary. They will give a one-time hit to price, but to be inflationary, that would mean that the pricing pressure would keep going. The price level will rise, but inflation, they're not inflationary in the sense that they keep building on each other. The price level simply goes up. But that higher price level will probably do a lot to lower the demand for those things, right? High prices are a cure for high prices. So I debated whether or not I should even go into anything last week and talk about where we've been, but there is a probability that this won't happen. So let's see where we are. GDP, Q4 2024, 2.3%. Let's see where that came from. The consumer, look at that, 2.82. This is the contribution to the 2.3, which I believe is table 3 or table 4 in GDP, not table 1. But it gives you the contribution of each of the categories. 2.3 came from C. Negative 1.03 came from I. That is understandable, and I think that's going to continue on that if we do have tariffs, because it's uncertainty. However, it is 4-year uncertainty. And if you really want to push it, it's 2-year uncertainty to the midterms if the Republicans can't hold Congress. We'll talk about the retaliation efforts between Canada and the U.S. And what the strategy is there. It's not a war that either Canada or Mexico can win on their own, but we'll talk about that strategy. This is a problem coming from fixed investment, and especially non-residential. There is a bit of a problem. However, given the uncertainty going into the end of last year with Trump saying, well, there'll be deportations, there'll be tariffs, and that back then it was like, well, it won't be as bad as what he says. I said this before. If he says something, just take him at his word. He talks himself into things. It's that he then will do it. So with uncertainty, you hold back investment because it's a big decision. If you expect that, well, this is only going to be 2 years or 4 years, why bother? G, 0.42. Look for this to actually be a drag to GDP going forward if, in fact, Doge is even remotely successful. If it's 25% successful, you're talking about a $500 billion reduction to the deficit. Well, that money gets spent and gets transferred somewhere. And X minus M, who knows what's going to happen on this. you have tariffs on goods coming in. That should slow down the M's, but you have tariffs now, retaliatory tariffs in both countries on the X going out. Colombia caved to Trump. Other countries have sort of backed off a little bit, but Canada and Mexico have said no. That may be enough to start a cascade of other countries that say no. Trump risks making the mistake the Nazis made in, and I don't say that in a derogatory sense as a comparison, but World War II, trying to fight a war on multiple fronts. Had Germany never attacked Russia, I think history would have unfolded differently. But opening up too many fronts, Trump risks opening up too many fronts, and this may actually be a drag on U.S. growth because many countries putting tariffs on one country, you can't survive that. One-on-one, if he picked on one country at a time, one-on-one, and brought them into submission, perhaps, but a many-to-one, that doesn't look good. So you do have some threats going forward. I don't think that investment is going to be what he thinks it is, because these decisions are big decisions. And if tariffs are just going to disappear in 4 years, or in 2 years if he doesn't have Congress and Congress votes it out, the president must carry out the orders of Congress. So why would you make multi-billion-dollar investments? You'll do the best you can. But I think this is going to be a trouble spot. The G, it's about time the government spending does shrink, but you have to understand it is going to be a hit to GDP. And we'll have a look at the employment cost index shortly. The jobs that would be lost here are, first of all, higher paying jobs than the average job in the economy, and higher income growth jobs than jobs in the economy. So every time you take $1 out of spending here, that means somebody else doesn't get $1. It's going to hit C. I don't know that 2025 can see this kind of growth in the face of tariffs, and in the face of contracting government spending, and in the face of uncertainty for non-residential fixed investment. Can you see where I'm going with this? It's hard to make the argument that all of these will be robust. And then, of course, you have your wild card over here if you get a many-to-one fight. Breaking down in the consumer goods, 1.37, services 1.45. This is outside of the tariffs. Services haven't been hit, but goods have 1.37. Durable 0.85, non-durable 0.52. And inventory, for the I, fixed investment, negative 0.1. The big one was the non-residential. You have residential investment and change in inventories, negative 0.93. I'm curious as to what's going to happen here. There was a lot of front running for the tariffs. Companies did stockpile inventories, and they've been doing it this month as well. Stockpiling inventories. I think GM has something like 2 or 3 weeks. They've been accelerating the importation from Canada as much as they possibly can. These tariffs across the board, GM is going to open up ugly on Sunday night. I say Sunday night because you can trade 23 hours a day. If you have access to Globex, you can. These big name stocks, most of the S&P 500, most, not all, will trade overnight. So you can actually begin to trade this evening. It is 7:54 a.m. as I do this. I have a 2 to 5 level 3 exam review, but markets don't open till 6 on Globex. You can guarantee I will be sitting in front of my screens looking at how we open. If Bitcoin is any indication of risk sentiment, which it is, it's a big risk sentiment indicator. It is significantly negative going into the morning. Actually, I got my iPad right here, so if you just want to give it a second, I will call it up and let's have a look. 98.5, it's down 3.66%, and it's, if you look at its chart, since the tariffs were announced last Saturday. It's basically just a line down, a straight down, and it's continuing to go down 3,700, under 100,000, 98. My thinking is that if these tariffs go into place on Tuesday morning, you could see 80,000 on Bitcoin by the end of the week, because the markets are going to be red and bloody on the open at 6 o'clock. Globex is going to be a sea of red. Monday will be a sea of red. And I have a theory about that too. I got lots of theories, because we got to try to figure out what what game Trump is playing here. For G, the Fed and state and local, kind of balanced, and same with defense, non-defense, kind of balanced. For imports, look at this. The exports took away 0.08, but imports actually added 0.12, meaning that when you look at the pattern of imports versus a previous quarter or versus the quarter last year, that it actually contributed to GDP growth by being less than some other baseline number that it was compared to, which seems odd because there was a lot. The trade deficit in December was really big, and it was really big because of the front running. Goods negative 0.35 on exports, but services fairly good. This is where I think the U.S. Is vulnerable if you're going to have retaliatory tariffs on services. I don't know how you get that done, because services are a flow, goods are a stock. Let me explain what I mean. If I don't have a washing machine and I want a washing machine from the US, that is one unit that I have to buy. But if I have Netflix, that's a flow. I get Netflix every single month, so I pay for a period of time. How are you going to deal with that? But imagine for a moment that they did that other countries said any services coming out of the U.S. The U.S. is about 10% manufacturing, 90% services. Right now, the share of GDP that comes from manufacturing is 10%. That would hurt on their exports. That is a source of growth. Imports, goods, 0.46. Services, negative 0.35. Let's look at some price indices. I want to point out this one, the market-based PCE. Have a look. This is removing all the imputed prices. In other words, there is no price, but we're just going to impute one. The things are done for items that you don't pay for, but that you still receive. 2%, 1.3, 2.1. This is based on market prices that you can see. I don't know that there is an inflation problem here. PCE, this is the consumption expenditure, because that's where we measure inflation, is at the consumer level, right? Excluding food and energy. 3.7 down to 2.8, 2.2, 2.5. I don't know that this is really troubling. 2%, especially when you're talking about statistical measures based on just broad surveys, is noisy to begin with. Would we think that these numbers are statistically different than zero? 3.2. This is GDP excluding food and energy. 3.2, 2.6, 2.4, 2.3. I'm not seeing much of a problem here. Even looking at the market-based PCE excluding food and energy, 2.3, 2, 2.3. I don't know. I kind of seem to think that we're there. But with these tariffs, you can expect beef prices in the U.S. to go up. You can expect a lot of vegetable and fruit prices in the U.S. to go up, because it was cheaper and easier to grow them in Mexico. Americans will now begin to see what the cost of domestic production truly is. How unaffordable life can be when you have to produce everything in the U.S. I don't know if Trump is trying to be isolationist, but that is where he's headed. Last week, you had some central banks. Bank of Canada cut 25. If these tariffs go into play, look for even more cuts. In fact, I'd say the next one, you'd probably be looking for 50 basis points. That is if you don't get an intermeeting emergency cut, which would probably be likely. ECB cut 25. The Fed did nothing on this one, and I think Trump's attention will turn to the Fed. If his tariffs go into play and they are inflationary, he will blame the Fed and he will start to put pressure on them. This is the employment cost index for December. It comes out quarterly, and it comes out on the typically the last day of the month following the quarter. So for December, you don't get it till January. For the March quarter ending, you'll get it at the end of April. This is the true cost of employment, because rather than looking at how much is being paid on average hourly earnings, for example, this looks at a particular job and tracks that job over time. So we don't have to worry about the changing mix of jobs like you do in the jobs report. So when we see average hourly earnings there, we have to say, but hang on a second. Every month, there are millions of jobs turning over across the economy. The mix is important. Here, there is no mix. So it is a pure number. Let's just head down to this table over here. Let me see if I can zoom in on this. Oops, there we are. We'll look at 3-month seasonally adjusted and 12-month not seasonally adjusted. Show of hands, does anybody know why you don't have to adjust 12 months? You don't adjust 12 months because they cover all the seasons. So December over December does not need a seasonal adjustment because it's the same month for the same month. So 12 months since all seasons are in there. But third quarter versus fourth quarter, there are seasonal differences between that, which is why you seasonally adjust different periods of time. But if you're doing the whole year, no need to adjust. Civilian workers, this is everybody, broken down into private and state and local government. Let's just look at private. 0.7 in September, creeping up to 0.8. Wages and salaries 0.8 to 0.9, and benefits flat. Compare that with state and local government. Look at the higher numbers there in every category. Compensation 0.9, from 1.1 down to 0.9, but still higher than private industry. Wages and salaries together 1.0, and benefits 1.0 versus 0.7. So reducing employment here to increase employment there will result in lower average salaries if we think about an average salary. Look at the 12-month, the December over the December, and this is the September to December. Again, we don't need to seasonally adjust them because this is all of 23. This is the last 12 months up to September 24 and the last 12 months up to December. You can really see the difference between private industry and state and local government here. Compensation 3.6%, 4.7% in terms of the cost index. Wages and salaries 3.7, 4.5. Benefits 3.3, 4.9. Big difference between them. Okay, let's look at rates and yields. This has, for the last couple years, been my opening screen because the monetary was the most important thing over the last few years. I think monetary, and I've said this before, I think it's going to take a back seat. It's not as important as the fiscal. And there is no fiscal. There's Trump. That's it. There, so far, we haven't seen Congress, we haven't seen the U.S. government, we've only seen Trump. Now, at some point, he's going to run out of rope in what he can do on his own. At least one thinks that he'll run out of rope on what he can do on his own, and he'll have to rely on Congress to get other things done. But so far, they've been rather absent in everything. But there is some possibility that something can happen Monday. However, to my point, this may not be my opening screen much longer. I think the opening screen will be, what the hell is Trump doing now? We can't ignore it because he has just waded right into the middle of our game. These tariffs will change everything. I shouldn't say everything, but will change enough of things. If you are long the market, Monday is going to be very bloody for you. It's going to be bloody. I can't see a rally on this. There's no good news in anything. So this may be relegated to the end of the video at some point. Hardly anything going on. It's the end of the month, so a lot of money finds its way into money market funds. We can see over here the reverse repo up to 187.9 billion. We can't read anything into it. It's usually window dressing for the end of the month for firms or companies that have any kind of reporting at the end of the month. Move money into money market funds. It improves the liquidity, improves the asset look of the balance sheet as well. That money usually comes out pretty much the very first day of trading, so that'll next Friday will be a better look at where we are in the reverse repo. And you have, it was a lot better on Friday afternoon. I had a haircut at 12:15. I got back a little after 1. Looked at the screens. Everything looked great. Went and made a tea. Came back, sat down, and IWM had this big red bar down. And I thought, here we go again. Same thing on Thursday. So you look around for stuff, and it was the White House press secretary pushing back on the rumors that the tariffs weren't going to happen, saying, no, they are absolutely going to happen. And then it just got, TLT gave up gains. It would have been much better. They were 88.50, 88.60, ended at 87.70, and just gave it up. And anything duration sensitive started to give it up as well. The market really gave it up. IWM was pushing 230 that day, looking like it wanted to break above 230, finished at around 226. It's going to be ugly. So we had slight gain, but that doesn't matter. It's over. It's what happened in the last few hours. It seems odd to me that you had that reaction. You could see the market reaction, and he went ahead and did what he did anyways. Trump cares about the market. It's going to be bloodbath on Monday. It is. Some sectors more than others, but it's going to be a bloodbath. Of the things that I'm thinking of why it's Tuesday, that's one of the reasons why I think it's Tuesday, is let's just see the market reaction on Monday. And if it's a real bloodbath, he might look for a way around it by saying, okay, Canada and Mexico have convinced me that they can get things done. I'm going to give them the benefit of that. Let's push this off a month. And he won't say they're gone. He'll just push it off to always have the threat there. But maybe that's why it's Tuesday, is the market reaction. But I can tell you what the market reaction is going to be. Next, FOMC, 45 days. 82% say zero. But if you do get these tariffs, there will be enough data over that period of time. You're not going to grow your way out of these tariffs. If you're hit on both sides of the border and you get another country that decides to hit you as well, you're not going to escape. There could be a rate cut simply because of the deterioration of economic activity. So watch this. If those tariffs happen, I would expect that these probabilities will shift down towards this one. We get the minutes, January 29 minutes in 17 days. Again, if we have tariffs on Tuesday, none of this matters. None of this matters. A big one that we are getting on this week, I think this is Tuesday or Wednesday, is the Treasury refunding. And I think you have your new Treasury Secretary in place for that one. Bank of England, rate decision in 4 days. This is a big week for jobs. JOLTS in 2 days, ADP in 3. Initial claims plus non-farm productivity and unit labor costs we get in 4 days. And then the jobs report we get in 5 days, US and Canada. But this is the January jobs report. And it is done near the beginning of the month, I believe. I don't think it includes like the last week of the month. I think the time frame would not include some of the more critical time periods. So I don't know that it's going to have a lot of information content going forward. If we avoid the tariffs, it'll have information content. It'll be relevant. If we have tariffs, it will not matter. because it'll be the next report that's going to be the big one. And I guarantee you, in all three countries, any jobs report will show negative jobs. This is not a job creator. This is a job killer. So I don't even know if this is going to matter. We'll have to wait till Tuesday. If they are implemented on Tuesday and all these tariffs go into place, again, none of this matters. Reserves 3.2 trillion. To get to ample, run off 22.2 months, but thinking July probably is the time where the Fed will start saying, okay, look, we gotta think about slowing this down or stopping this. A lot of Fed speak this week. This will be interesting. You get tariffs that happen on Tuesday. These guys are going to have to rewrite their speeches very quickly. Monday, Bostic, Musalem. Tuesday, Bostic and Jefferson, just in case you didn't hear him on Monday. Wednesday, Barkin, Goolsbee, Bowman, Jefferson. Thursday, Waller, Daly, and Friday, Kugler. I think this will be the more important one. Interesting to see if there's any Q&A involved in these. It's going to be asked. I mean, if you're in the audience and you can ask a question of a Fed official, it's going to be asked. What's going to happen here? So that'll be interesting. Monday, you get ISM manufacturing. Again, not that important for the U.S. anymore. This is the big one. Services, that if you want to hit the U.S. hard and punish them, you hit their services. TLT still squeaked out a good week. It would have been better. Same with SPX, lost 1%. It would have been better had Trump or the press secretary had not confirmed on Friday, had that scare not shown up again. But there it is. For rate cuts, we have 48.5 in there now. 2 cuts in 7 meetings. You get tariffs on Tuesday and you get an ugly trade war. 2 cuts is nowhere near enough. I'd probably say you're going to get 5 to 6 to 7 cuts over the year if you get into a trade war, because it will hit growth in all 3 countries, Canada and Mexico, more than the U.S., but U.S. will not escape it. It will lead to job losses. I would say that if you are betting on ZQ, I'm long ZQ, this is probably a catalyst for gains on ZQ. I'm also long TLT, and that's not going to be pretty. On Monday, TLT is probably going to take a dump down. It wouldn't surprise me if it took a $2 dump down. If the 10-year jumped 15, 20 basis points in one day, it would not surprise me. The initial reaction is going to be get out of duration. Get out of the car companies, get out of industrials, get out of cyclicals. The utilities would probably do well, even though they're duration sensitive, they're domestic. Utilities will do well. It's hard to, in my head, think of what would do well. Consumer staples may do well, but it depends on where their supply chains are. I think there'll just be a run to cash. I think cash will do okay. I think duration isn't going to do very well. I think maybe up to the 2-year, maybe the 3-year might be okay. Beyond that, I think that's going to be ugly. So I would look for yields to do this on Monday, until we have clarity of what's going on. And then on Tuesday, if we see that there are tariffs, look for more of it. It is going to be ugly. On the last screen, I say it's going to be ugly. It depends, I guess, on what you're sitting on. If you're short, it's going to be a beautiful day. If you're balanced, it's going to be okay. If you're sitting on a lot of cash, I believe it's going to be a shopping day. And I'll explain that on the next screen. And again, here we are with SPY. Does it mean anything? You get tariffs on Tuesday. I don't know that any of this means anything, but forward, 4-quarter operating earnings, 272, kind of flat. Closing SPX, 60.40, that came down. So your multiple came down because your price came down. Still 22, elevated. This is a good reason If these things happen, it's a good reason for a 10% correction. If not more, it is a good reason. I think if you get them into play, you could easily see a 10% from your all-time high, because it is a richly valued market, priced to work out. This is not helpful in the least. Surprise factor from over 8% now down to 5.8%. Implied volatility increasing. You're going to get 100%. I think by the end of Monday, you're going to get 100%. And same with TLT. That is increasing as well, but rather low. Market finished. It was doing well. Look at this. It was. This is the intraday. You see the little wick on the candle at 610. It really wanted to have a good day, but late in the day, yeah, that's what happened. I don't know why you'd carry through with it on Saturday after seeing that. However, from a technical perspective, we do have some house cleaning to get done. You've got some downside gaps over here, and this downside gap is just below 585 from 598. I would be willing to bet you cover that on Monday on the open, that you probably gap down and you cover it. And if you gap down, well, then now we have an upside gap to cover. But I would be looking at that gap and saying, oh yeah, that with what we are facing going into Sunday night and into Monday, unless he comes to his senses in one day and cancels it before Monday opens, I don't think so. I think there's something else going on. I'm going to give you my thought, because you got to think about all sorts of reasons why somebody would do something this stupid. What's the end game? But yeah, we have that downside gap. IWM 226.48. Look for that to really drop. Same with IJR. That's going to drop. That's going to drop a lot more than SPX. 226, 118. This was pushing 230 that day. And it peaked over 230 a few times, and it looked like it wanted to run above 230, which I was quite happy about. So I was selling calls because I want to be short IWM. I am short, but I want a much bigger short. I didn't get it. But I did sell some in-the-money calls, 220, 221, 222, in the form of straddles. It's one side of a trade. The straddle is engineered to give me a short cover around 211, 210, and 209. Depending on how low the price goes, I'll engineer a cover some $15 below that. But the calls are going to make money. That's the sold calls will make money. So there's some good news for me on that one. Open the implied volatility. Again, this is meaningless, right? 13.2. Look for a big jump in that. 13.7 on TLT. The volatility is going up. You'll recall the beginning of the year, my first market outlook, I had themes for 2025. Number one was volatility everywhere. We are getting that. Since Trump has come into office, we have not been disappointed. There is volatility everywhere. If you're a directional trader, this volatility is very frustrating, because you're up and then you're down. You're up and then you're down. On Friday, you're probably saying, everything's green. And then you check at 4 o'clock, everything's red. And believe me, at 6 o'clock when Globex opens tonight, it will be even redder, and it will be red tomorrow. Blood everywhere. But if you're a volatility trader, rather than just being directional, you have a balance between long and short, which is really what I've been trying to get done. Then you're unconcerned about direction. You're just going to harvest your volatility gains. So we're down, harvest. We're up, harvest. So I'm not saying that I'm all the way there, but I won't be hurt as bad, because I do have short position on IWM. I do have a long position on ZQ, and I think ZQ will respond well tomorrow, but I do have a long position in TLT. So you're balanced. Look at this. For such a large number to only be off by one. Bravo, guys. Sector Spider actually had 130. However, they list both shares of Google, both shares of Fox News, and there were three companies that had two shares listed. They list both, even though it's only one company reporting. So after you adjust for that, 127 versus 128, close enough. Close enough for something that's really objective. You got close enough, guys. Give them a gold star on each one of these, because that's a big number to be so close on. Now, normally if there's only 3 or 4 reporting, that's where you can hope that they're right. But look at this. We'll have a look at who's reporting. What will be interesting is if you get tariffs on Tuesday, you're going to have to listen to the guidance on some of these companies. Ford will be interesting because Ford is reporting. There's a whole bunch of companies reporting, a whole bunch of industrials. They'll be the ones to listen to. Not so much that you care about the industrial, but they're cyclical. And they're the ones that'll be most affected because they produce goods and they use raw materials and goods in their input process. They're going to be interesting to listen to. GM on if this happens on Tuesday, I would look for some sort of letter to shareholders or some sort of press release on that day, because that's going to be a big deal. You got to calm your shareholder base down. Now, GM has a ton of cash. If their share price gets hit badly, they have shown an absolute willingness to buy their share back in billion-dollar chunks, not just billion. What was it, 10 billion one time, another 6 billion 3-4 months after that. They're willing to do it with their cash flow. Or they may conserve their cash flow. I don't know, but it'll be interesting. What was the Confucius? Was it I think it was a curse, or was it a blessing? May you live in interesting times. Somebody is familiar with Confucius. Now, Confucius was a big conservative. So maybe that was a curse. May you live in interesting times, because things change a lot. If you want conservative thinking, it's Confucius. So maybe that was the Chinese curse. May you live in interesting times. Well, holy geez, we live in interesting times right now, don't we? Okay, Monday. You almost have to feel sorry for these companies, because even if they have good earnings, even if they have a good quarter and they say, look what we've done, tariffs will override everything. Even if they have good earnings, I think things will be red. Palantir, they're flying high anyways. Their valuation of all of the sector that they're in, even if you use Rule of 40, Rule of X, are still quite richly valued. Some semiconductor activity here. Tyson Foods, Clorox, an equity, a REIT, thank you. Let's go into Tuesday. I've got them ordered in the sector. There's Google. See, they put both classes in, so you got to take one out because it's really just one company. Same with Fox. They put 2 in, so if you add these up, it comes to 130. Once I took out Alphabet and Fox, I got to 128. I got really excited. I go, no way. They're the same. Do you think that maybe they've been listening to me, or the message has gotten back that, guys, this is embarrassing if you can't get this right? But either way, I'll take credit for it. No one ever thought I could get it done, but I got it done. People listen to me. Electronic Arts, you have KKR, Apollo Global in the financials, PayPal, Prudential. Who do we have in our industrials? I think the guidance here, I'm not interested in most of these companies. The guidance here is going to be important. Cummins, going down into technology. AMD, Supermicro, if you follow that one, it's a headline stock. ADM, Pepsi. Who else do we have in the REIT space? Essex Property Trust, Simon Property Group, 2 big ones. And going down into healthcare, Merck and Pfizer and Amgen. That's going to be a big day for if you're a long XLV. Chipotle. Let's see who is on Wednesday. Walt Disney, and there's the other one that had 2 shares, and I said, so close. 127, News Corp. In the financials, Aflac, Allstate. That'll be interesting, right? The insurance companies. I'm working on the insurance, understanding insurance right now. They're not hard to understand, really. The businesses are not hard to understand, but they have very particular balance sheets. and very particular types of accounts that are unique to insurance, and particular types of ratios that are unique to insurance. So you have to understand those. Guidance here will be really interesting on what they have to say. Again, with the industrials, if we want to get an idea of how these tariffs are going to affect Stanley Black & Decker, Johnson Controls, there's Uber in there, and industrial. Does that seem right to you? Uber? I would have thought that would have been more either transportation or consumer discretionary, but there we are. Who knows? Illinois Toolworks. Then you have some in technology. Avalon Bay, Mid-American Apartments, two big residential REITs. Boston Scientific. Anything else interesting there? Yum Brands, Ford. I will be listening to this one. O'Reilly Automotive as well, but I'll be listening to this one because that is right in the heart of Detroit, with production facilities on both sides of the border, Canada and the U.S. We can't hear GM. GM's already happened, but Ford is probably ground central for that whole Detroit region. If there are tariffs, you have to listen to this one. That'll be critical. And that's on Wednesday. Thursday, who do we have here? ConocoPhillips, Honeywell, Equifax, anything, Fortinet, if you're into the cybersecurity space, Fortinet. VeriSign's another sort of headline stock name. Hershey, Philip Morris, Camden Property Trust. Who else? Eli Lilly, Bristol Myers Squibb, IQVIA, lots of research here. It's a data company. Borg Warner, that'll be interesting. Aptiv, again, auto industry, that'll be interesting. Amazon, there's a big one. I wonder if it'll affect Amazon. In Canada, Amazon is shutting down all of its distribution centers in Quebec. There was a big union push. It's like, wow, what do you think is going to happen? Amazon says it didn't have anything to do with that. It had to do with something else. But, there is what you say, and then there's suspicion. And Friday, Fortive and Kimco. Okay, let's talk about these tariffs. Going into effect on Tuesday. So I put a question mark here. I thought, well, that's odd. Why Tuesday? It leaves optionality. It leaves a chance for something to happen, or for Trump to say something has happened to cancel it. Gives an opportunity to see what the market reaction is going to be. And it gives opportunity for perhaps a judge to step in and block it. This way here, Trump wins. I did what I said I was going to do, but a judge blocked it. So we're just going to go, we just have more work to do. Could that be why it's Tuesday to give the Monday? I have another theory. I have no evidence for this theory. I just, you start thinking about, well, what is my end goal? Why would I do it this way? A lawyer once taught me how to negotiate and how to think about what the other side is doing by their actions. He says, don't listen to what they're saying. Think about what their end goal is, and work backwards from their end goal and listen to the words they're saying. And if the words they're saying don't match their end goal, something is wrong. Either you've got the end goal wrong, or they're just blustering. They're just using that as a negotiating tactic. You could see right through it. So think about an end goal. One of the things that I'm well aware of is the means to a goal for Trump are meaningless. It does not matter what means. Any and all means are on the table. So if the goal is X, any and all pathways are on the table. There is no moral or ethical qualm with any of those pathways. They are. There's not even a question of whether this is a moral thing or an ethical thing to do. That's it. I'd say even if it's not a legal thing to do, it still would be on the table. So what if his end goal is just money? That's because that's one thing that I put on there because, I mean, the Trump coin, now Truth Social, is going to be introducing a whole bunch of financial products for conservatives that can't be banked. He's using the office and the power and the prestige and the notoriety of the office to promote his own products. So what if money is his end goal? Well, you would have known that you were issuing this order on Saturday. Friday was a good day. That was a good day to short the market. Issue the order on Saturday, and on Monday, cover your short. Now, he can't get that done. Neither can his family get that done, but a fund out there can get that done. Do you see where I'm going with this? And if you pretty much own the Justice Department, and you pretty much own the SEC because he's got his own people in place there, there'll be no investigation into this. So you could create the very volatility you profit from. So does he need Monday to cover his short position? Does he need Monday to have a judge stop him? I think he probably, if the market is red that day, and he is honest about what he's doing, that he wants North American dominance, he wants to subsume Canada as a 51st state. Maybe this is part of his plan. If the market is really red, maybe he would want a way out. Why not have it happen on Tuesday? Let's see if a judge can stop it, because a judge has stopped other things before, and he's quickly pulled that stuff back without much pushback. So I think it's enough to say, look, I fulfilled a whole bunch of promises. I did what I said I was going to do, but the deep state's against me. You see it there. These judges, they're not that good judges. They're bad judges. They're terrible judges. They're awful. They were put there by Biden. They got to go. That kind of thing, right? Just the Tuesday is what throws me off. Why Tuesday? If you are convinced that this is what you want to do it right away. Tuesday's not enough time for the economy to find alternative sources of supply. So it's not about a lead time. It's not about lead time. Tuesday is odd. Why not Monday morning? If you think that Canada and US will come to you with something, why not Monday morning? It's because maybe you need the markets open. A judge can issue an order overnight. You can get a judge out of bed on a Saturday night to get something done. A judge can get something done on a Monday. On a Sunday. You don't really need working hours. Why Tuesday? Why do you need the Monday? Maybe to see what the market reaction is and then change course. Maybe to cover your short position and then go long and then change course. Do you see where I'm going with this? Like there's when you start thinking about what the end goal is. If the end goal is money, all of it fits. If the end goal is optionality, all of it fits. But Tuesday is I don't know what to make of the Tuesday. Why not do it right away? If you're serious, why Tuesday, right? Look at this, 25 on Mexico, 25 on Canada, 10 on China. Seems very odd to me. Is your trading partners, the most beautiful, wonderful trade deal that's ever been negotiated under Trump, the U.S. MCA, is the most beautiful trade deal ever. No one ever thought it could get done. Everyone's talking about it. And suddenly, now this is how you treat friends, or at least your trading partners, on this beautiful deal that you negotiated. But China, when you have evidence that China is actively working against U.S. interests or is diametrically opposed to U.S. interests. However, if you can look at it from another lens, Mexico has a left-leaning leader. Canada has a liberal leader. This guy is not. He's a dictator. Trump prefers dictators. He doesn't like the liberals. Now, let me just explain something of what I've been through the last few months. I have the last set of videos I put up was understanding Bitcoin miners. You have to wade into the Bitcoin space for that. My God, there's a lot of stupid there. There is a lot of stupid. Well, if you're going to follow Trump, you got to be on Truth Social. You want to find levels of crazy and stupid, go to Truth Social. What are the comments about the tariffs? Almost all of them are about sticking it to the liberals. Watch the liberals cry, liberal tears. Liberals are outraged, quite rightly. Like it's all about sticking it to the libs. Mexico is left-leaning, more on that side. Canada is very left-leaning. Trudeau was probably the poster child for wokeness and DEI writ large at the political level, which neither one of those things Trump likes, but not China. So you think, why 10% on China when dollar-wise that's your biggest grab is that, and you truly don't really need what China's giving you, really, but you do need Canadian energy. You do need Canadian raw materials. You do need Mexican food until you can switch your growing seasons into the types of food that you've allowed Mexico to grow because they have a better advantage on it. You do need that stuff. But liberal, not liberal. I have done quite well with a hierarchy of how to analyze Trump. At the core, you can always work with a rational argument, right? You can always say, well, what's the rational thing to do, expecting that all actors will be rational? What is the rational thing to do? For the U.S. now, sitting above the rational is the national. So you have to say, that's notional, national. So you have to say, well, what is the national argument? What is the America First argument? Tariffs start to make a little more sense at the national level than at the rational level, but across the board 25% don't, and only 10% on China absolutely doesn't make the national argument. With Trump, there is one more level. It's the petty argument. So you have to analyze it from a petty perspective, from a national perspective, and a rational, with the rational being last. If he makes a decision, a petty decision that has some national flavor to it with a sliver of rationality, it's purely by accident, because that is his hierarchy of making decisions. If there is no petty argument to be made, you have to make the national argument to if you're going to try to game out what they're going to do, the national above the rational. But with Trump, it's the petty above the national. Could it be? Liberal, not liberal? 25-25, closest trading partners, most beautiful trade deal ever executed, no trade deal. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me why it's 10% there and 25% on the others, unless he just hates them. This is a bit of a giveaway here. I think Trump would be a terrible poker player. Only 10% on energy. Recognizes they need energy. What I would have done if I were the prime minister is I would have put a 15% exit tax on energy. 15% exit tax makes sure that Americans pay it, not Canadians. Right now at 10%, producers in Alberta could take a 10% hit to keep their revenues. But I would have put a 15% exit tax on it. So I can tariff goods coming from the U.S. into Canada, and I can also put an exit tax on goods leaving. So if there's a 25% tariff on goods leaving Canada entering the U.S., I would throw another 25% exit tax on it and make it even worse. Because I'm not going to survive as Canada. I'm not going to survive a trade war. I'm going to get hurt really badly. I can't fight them dollar for dollar. It makes no sense to fight them dollar for dollar. I have to do something far more concentrated. They need the energy. They just gave it away. They need the energy. I would cut them off. Same with Mexico. I would cut them off quite badly. Look at the retaliations that's going on here, and we'll talk about the strategy of this. Mexico, tariffs and non-tariff retaliation, but no specifics. Even now, I still have no specifics on it. I keep looking every hour saying, what are they going to do? I got nothing specific on that. Canada on February 4th if these tariffs hold, will put 25% on initial range of 30 billion, followed by another 125 billion 21 days later. I don't get the 21 days. If you're going to do it, do it. This is I think a little bit of weakness here. I would not have done that. Non-tariffs may include critical minerals. The U.S. relies on Canadian uranium. So shut it down. I would instantly. I would shut it down. Why? Because I can sell uranium anywhere. I can sell it anywhere. It was just convenient because the U.S. was right there. It was convenient. Why not sell that to your friend? I can sell it anywhere, right? The other thing that I would do is say, you know, that money we're spending on the border, we're kind of not going to do it now. You know, you told us to strengthen our border. We did, and you punched us in the face anyways. You know what? Why should we strengthen our border? We're going to turn our backs on this. And if you think that fentanyl was coming in, watch now. We're not going to do a damn. I would just let drugs and immigrants flood the country at that point and say, now you spend the money on your side of the border. If it's a war you want, it's a war you got. You got to do the best you can. Here's sort of a counter. Trump order also includes a mechanism to escalate the rates of countries retaliate. So this is Trump saying, I'm going to punch you in the face. If you attempt to protect yourself, I will have my security detail beat the bloody crap out of you. So he's saying, you're going to take it. You're going to take it. And if you even try to defend yourself, it's going to be even worse. This is a dictator. That's what a dictator does. That's what a bully does. And there's only one way to fight a bully. We can't fight him head on. Canada can't. Mexico can't. But here's a couple of things I know. Give me the best UFC fighter and give me 4 average Joes and put them in the ring together. I don't care how good you are a fighter. When you have 4 coming at you from all sides, you're not going to make it. You can't fight 4 off. I don't care how good you are. Those 4 average Joes will take down that fighter. They will take him down. You can't. This is why animals, wolves and coyotes, attack in packs, because they can take down a much larger animal attacking in packs because you can't fight off that many. You ever see hyenas go after a lion? They do it in groups. No matter how, a lion can rip the hell out of a hyena, but not 20 of them. Right? So you get a group of countries attacking at the same time. I don't care how big you are. You're going to go down. Mexico and Canada might then start to encourage other countries to say, hey, we don't have to be pushed around. We can stand up. And this is how you fight a bully. The other thing is all of these are very targeted. They're targeting red states. So what's the biggest thing out of Florida? Oranges and orange juice and tourism. The first thing that I would do is I would put a 30% export duty on any flight landing in Florida from Canada. So now you're going to have to take a longer route. That maybe you'll go to vacation somewhere else. But that's what I would do, is I would shut off their source of supply very quickly. So it's very targeted. They're targeted towards red states, which makes sense. When I was younger, I spent most of my teenage years. I didn't engage in a lot of team sports. I did more single sports, but I trained in Shaolin Kung Fu. It was Hungar style. And then in my late teens, I switched to Wu Ti, which was more of a Shaolin temple boxing sort of thing. But Hungar was more of a combat form. And the one thing we learned is if you are going into a confrontation that you cannot win, you can run away, but you'll spend your whole life running away. You can run away, but if that's not an option and you're not going to win, you have to find a different strategy, which is zeroing in on one part of the body, and your goal is to break it. Period. You ever wonder why you break boards? You ever wonder why? And then sometimes there's 2 and sometimes there's 3, and you try to kick or punch your way through boards to break them. If you ever wondered why do you guys break boards? What's up with that? It's white pine. White pine has the same density as bone structure. So if you can learn to strike a board in a particular way with a particular speed to break the board, you can break a bone. So your goal is to target something very specific and break it. That's what's going on here. That's what these targets, and same with this. This will be targeted very specifically at red states to break them. And that is the only strategy you have, because you're not going to win a stand-up economic war against the U.S. You have to go in there, close the gap, find something, focus on it, and break it. Break a state. So if Mexico can break a couple of states and Canada can break a couple of states, especially red states, maybe Congress overrules Trump. I think that's the only thing that you can do. I think the Tuesday was left open for Monday as an optionality, as potentially an escape clause, or cover your short position, make some money, then go long or do a risk reversal. Say there are no tariffs, watch the market go up on Wednesday, later on the week say, I don't know, I'm thinking of putting these tariffs back on. What a game you could play, right? I think I've said this before on the market outlook. I know I've said it in my positions video. My forecast is Trump will leave office as one of the richest men in the world. Here was his Truth Social post. And again, if you're on Truth Social and you want to plumb new depths of stupid and crazy, there is no shortage of material there. The level of stupidity in Truth Social. And then when you're done there, head over to the Coiner networks and listen to what they have to say about stuff. It is surprising that there are that many stupid people, but I think for most of my life I've been isolated. University, you're hanging around a certain type of crowd. When you get to grad school, that crowd gets smaller and more higher in terms of the intellectual capacity. When you get to the PhD level, it's even higher, and then you're always teaching in a university. And then with the CFA program, these are all high achievers, because you don't have to do this, you choose to do it. So when you plunge yourself into the world of Bitcoin and Truth Social, it's eye-opening. It's like, is the world like this? You got to be kidding me. It can't be like this. But have a tour of Truth Social if you really want to shake your head and say, oh my God, this can't be true. This can't be true. These people are allowed to drive vehicles and own guns? It can't be true, but it is. Here's his post. Today I have implemented 25% tariff on imports from Mexico and Canada, 10% on Canadian energy, 10% additional tariff on China. This was done, and he's telling you what he used the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, IEPA. Last week I went through some of the mechanisms by which he could invoke these powers, IEPA, but it's a stretch to invoke powers, to invoke the emergency power under that, because to be able to say that everything is an economic emergency, to be able to say that, I think he's going to lean very heavily on the fentanyl and the illegal border crossings as the economic emergency, which is why he kept pushing that narrative about Canada, even though it's like, what, there's hardly any here. Sure there is, but that's not a Canadian problem. That's a global problem. If you have humans on this planet, you're going to have a demand for drugs. You're going to have a demand for alcohol. That's a human condition. Drugs wouldn't flow into the U.S. if Americans didn't demand them. If there was no demand, they wouldn't flow in, right? So this is thin, and so perhaps he's hoping with Tuesday that a judge says, no, you can't do that under this, gets a stop order on that, and Trump can at least say, look, I did it. I carried through on my promise. The deep state stopped me because of the major threat of illegal aliens and deadly drugs killing our citizens. Yeah, well, there it is right there, right? Including fentanyl. We need to protect Americans. It is my duty as president to ensure the safety of all. I made a promise on my campaign to stop the flood of illegal aliens and drugs from pouring across our borders, and Americans are overwhelmingly in favor of it. I made a promise. I did this. I used this. And let's make it Tuesday, give time for a judge and arguments to be made, and maybe it's turned over and he can say, whew, escaped a bullet. Maybe he covers his short position on Monday, I don't know. One thing I do know, it's going to be Bloodbath Monday. I've named it. It will always be remembered as Bloodbath Monday now. I say good, not because I'm putting any kind of subjective evaluation on it, like it's a good thing that we're going to have a bloodbath. If Trump watches the market and if the market disciplines him in any way, this may be a good thing. If he sees the reaction, he may look for an exit. If it is just truly, look, a very nationalistic thing to do and an expansionist thing, if he's trying to bring Canada to its knees to become the 51st state, an economic war is not going to do it, short of a military invasion. And even then, you're going to have a war. We're coming up on the 3rd year anniversary of Russia and Ukraine, and people are dying, and that's still going on. That's still going on. You think an economic war in 3 months and Canada's going to go, okay, we give? It's not going to happen. But you got a guy pushing 80 who, what else can he accomplish in life, right? He doesn't want to be remembered as another president. He wants to be a Caesar. He wants to be a king. He wants to rule the world. He wants to fulfill the North American Manifest Destiny, which is sort of what a World War II version of Germany had in mind was their European Manifest Destiny. Napoleon had Manifest Destiny complex as well. I think he sees himself, or he would like history to see him as that. So at his age, you can't discount self-actualization and these big grandiose plans to take over the world. Muhahaha, he says. Bloodbath Monday. The Canadian and Mexican are going to take a dump. I am willing to bet that this Tuesday is something, that it is an escape clause. Because why not do it? Why not do it immediately? Why not do it Sunday? Why not do it Monday? If you were afraid a judge would overturn it, put it into place immediately and make the judge overturn it. Don't wait and see if a judge overturns it. That's not his style. His style is not to do that. It's act and then let's see what happens. Maybe I'll get away with it. Tuesday is telling that there's a probability that this will be pushed off. It won't be canceled. It will be pushed off. So I'm willing to make a bet, mostly on the Canadian. I won't touch the Mexican. Canadian, I think it wouldn't be surprising to see 147. We're at 145.5, 145.4 on the closing, 150, 200 on the downside. Anything north of 147, 147.5, 148, I would go long the Canadian because I have a lot of American dollars anyways. What a great opportunity to turn them back into Canadian at way more than what I paid for them. Way more. I converted most of my Canadian to US at about 134 December of 2023. To get to 147, that's a 13% return on a trade I never even intended to make. I'll take it, right? GM and Ford are going to be ugly. They are so integrated with Canada and Mexico, parts that go back and forth as if there was no border there. 25% going there, 25% back, 25% going there. I mean, that can't be done. It simply just brings it to a halt. It simply can't be done. And the margins aren't there for 25% tariffs. You will slow down production. If you have a used vehicle in the U.S., watch the price of used vehicles just go straight up because it'll be like the pandemic all over again where you won't find any new vehicles. So I think that's going to be ugly. Ford is reporting this week, like we've pointed out. Its conference call will be interesting. All duration is going to get hit because, of course, the initial reaction is going to be this is going to be inflationary. Fed has two mandates, right? Full employment and price stability. It's believed that this will threaten price stability, but it will also threaten full employment. And full employment is where you would get the Fed moving into lower rates if that happened, which does not mean capital market rates would go lower. Money market rates would, but it doesn't mean capital market rates would go lower. The initial reaction on this is look for a bear steepening on this curve that is going to be 20, maybe even 30 basis points. Negative beta, all beta, whether you're talking large cap, mid cap, small cap, negative beta. Now it is, at this point in time, 8:57 a.m. It's going to be 9 hours before I can see what's going on in Globex. I would be very surprised if the indexes were all green. Very surprised, which means I'd be looking around for what did I miss. There must have been another release. I'm on Truth Social, so I'm following Trump and JD Vance, so I can see everything they say, and you get policy by tweet these days, if you want, or policy by truth. Sorry, they're truths. They're not tweets. They're truths. You can truth something out and then even retruth it. Oh, man, it makes me sick just thinking about it. But listen, if you got a Sunday afternoon to kill and you want to find a whole bunch of crazy, go to any Bitcoin video and read the comments under that, or go to Truth Social. And just type in tariffs and search for all the tweets, all the truths on tariffs. And it's all about, they're just too dumb to realize. They think it's about liberals. It's about showing the liberals. Well, liberal tears, when one of them said something like, I'm getting off watching liberal tears. It was, it was the height of crazy and stupid. Truth Social. Anyways, there we are. I don't know what more to say on this because I think we have to go forward with a lot of uncertainty and position ourselves for volatility, which for most people is, so what does that mean? If you're predominantly long only, that's going to be tough. Because volatility just means that you'll be up and then you'll be down, then you'll be up, then you'll be down, and for the most part, I wouldn't try timing any of that. If you are long, I would just look through it and say, "Well, look, it's going to be what it's going to be for a while, but things will get better at some point." So I'm just gonna go away and do my own thing. If you do know how to play the volatility, a combination of being long and being short at the same time. You're still going to get hit. It's still going to be ugly, but you will get away a lot better. I'm looking at Monday as a shopping day. I don't know how big the window is, but I think there's something with the Tuesday. I think there's a reason for the Tuesday, and I'm just going to go with it. And I'm going to be buying on Monday, primarily the currency. If TLT takes a $2-3 hit, I will buy more of that. Beta, hopefully I can cover some short positions on IWM. It drops that much. If I cover the short, maybe I'll do a risk reversal. I'll think, if I were trying to make money off this as Trump, what would I do? And then I'm gonna try doing the same thing. Let's see if it works out. Anyways, I think that's it for the day, unless there's more news coming out. This is it. Now, it's Sunday at 9. In an hour, things could change. Who knows? In 2 hours, it could change. In 2 hours, it could be a federal judge that says, no, you cannot use IEPA to get done what you want to do, and cancels everything off. It could just all be canceled away, and we open up green, and up we go. But if nothing changes, I expect a sea of red and a bloodbath Monday. That is it. Oh, one more thing before I go. One more thing. I know that there is a theme, a small theme in the comment sections about me avoiding politics. If you can tell me how I can get that done how I can get any of this done without talking about Trump at all, you let me know, because there is no fiscal policy in the U.S. There's monetary policy and there's fiscal policy, and usually for markets we look at both. But there is no fiscal policy, there's only Trump policy. Fiscal policy is the government taking action. The government's not taking action, Trump is. So if you can tell me how to avoid that side of the conversation and still talk about what we think about markets, let me know how to get that done, because I have no idea how I could have had this conversation and what we're doing without bringing it in. It can't be done. And I believe going forward, the fiscal will dominate the monetary. And the fiscal right now is Trump. There is no U.S. government. There is only Trump right now. So, if your comment is leave politics out of it, spare yourself the time and don't bother putting the comment down, because there is no way to avoid it.